I'm Katy Wells, host of the Maximized Minimalist podcast. I escaped the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood, overwhelmed by clutter and buried under the mental load. Now I live in a home that feels calm, manageable, and made for real life. I have margin in my days, energy for who matters most, and time for slow mornings and silly dance parties in the kitchen with my family. With over 5 million listens, the show has helped women around the world turn their homes into their happy place. Around here, we simplify for more peace, more presence, and more joy. We choose grace over guilt and progress over perfection. And we believe your home should give back more than it takes. I'm here to help you do the same. Come along with me and my guests as we share the real stories, habits, and strategies that help you lighten the load from the inside out. Pull up a seat, friend, and let's do this together. Ready, set, simplify. Welcome back to the show, Simplifiers. Today's guest, I am so privileged to speak with him and just bring his knowledge into our community, is Dr. John LaPuma. He is an internal medicine physician, a professionally trained chef, and a 2-time New York Times bestselling author, which y'all is incredibly hard to do. So I'm already very impressed. I'm even more excited to bring him on because, when this is released, we're heading into springtime. And I think a lot of us parents and moms and people in general just craving a reset after a very long winter. And on the show, it's no secret that we talk about simplifying your home and your life, not by doing more, but by making small changes that support the season you're in. And Dr. John's work connects directly to that. Similar to me, he really looks at how our physical environment shape how we feel, function, and how our nervous systems cope. This is sounding familiar. So his new book is out. I'll link that in the show notes. We'll make sure to talk about this, called The Indoor Epidemic. And today I want to understand really what this means for our families, why we so need to hear this message, and what's actually doable when you live a busy life, as many of us do. So Dr. John, welcome to the show.
Great, Katy. So great to be with you. I can't wait to talk to your audience and you.
Same. So to start, for anyone maybe hearing that term for the first time, the main title of your book, when you say indoor epidemic, what do you mean? And what are you noticing in families right now that makes this important?
Indoor epidemic is the biologic damage and emergency that's done by being inside too much. And that's resulted not just in medical problems, insomnia, immune deficiency, insulin resistance, attention fatigue, myopia, chronic diseases of many types, sedentariness, loneliness, isolation. But also it's sort of taken us away from the resets that we need. When you're indoors as much as we are, you have a lot of things to do. And that's great for cognitive work like this. We're both indoors, we're working, right? And that's harder to do outside. But when you're outside, you use an entirely different part of your brain that actually helps to refresh what you're doing inside. But so many of us are exhausted by what's going on inside that we just don't have the bandwidth to reset.
Wow, you listed a lot of different, side effects, physiological, mental health. What are you seeing with parents and kids alike from, like you said, just too much inside time? And how is that quantified? Is that through studies and just research over the years?
There is. Actually, I reviewed 2,200 studies for this book, peer-reviewed medical studies from all kinds of literature, horticulture, internal medicine, agriculture. And what we find is that, first of all, the base finding is that we spend 93% of our time indoors. And that we didn't biologically evolve to do that. And it affects kids in actually predictable ways and adults.
Yeah.
We biologically cope being indoors by not having any type of curiosity about what's inside because we're basically confined, about what's outside because we're basically confined. So that 93% indoors not only has some of the side effects, as you say, of those medical problems, but I think it's actually a root cause of that and of increased longevity, of increased mortality. And there's a lot of data to back that up. With less longevity because of it, we're actually seeing frayed telomeres in people who are inside too long. But conversely, when we're outside, without responsibility, which moms almost never are, we actually see improvement in telomere length and in telomere quality, so that it's almost an anti-aging modality and intervention to be outside without responsibility in specific, intentional, targeted ways.
Wow. And so what do you mean when you say without responsibility?
I mean that when most moms are outside, you have something to do, right? You got
Mm-hmm.
to get a kid to school. You got to walk the dog on a schedule. You got to hit the carpool. You got to take somebody to soccer. You have stuff to do outdoors that needs to be done around the house. And when you're doing that, your brain is working. You're task oriented. You're not enjoying any of the benefits that outside gives you by engaging your parasympathetic nervous system and using your senses, which is how we understand nature, right? We actually understand nature not by doing stuff and making lists and using notifications. We understand nature by using our senses, and that's simply touch, listen, see, smell, and taste. And there are simple ways, and I actually list hundreds in the book, Indoor Epidemic, to use your senses with your kids or on your own to give yourself actually a neurologic reset so that you can go back to what you're doing in a more calm and focused way.
Wow. What I'm really hearing is that it provides a lot more healing than I think a lot of us recognize. And especially, I couldn't help but peek up about the anti-aging thing. I'm 38 and I'm getting lots of targeted ads for skincare, very expensive skincare products. And it's like, we're always being sold something, right? And I think, wow, it's truly impacting like our DNA, how we're spending our time inside
right.
compared to
Yeah.
outside. And I think that impact alone on a very superficial level, this can make me younger. You can't bottle that up and sell it, but
No,
it's like
but
there's so many free resources available to us that truly do move the needle when it comes to longevity and also all these other things.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Katy. That, I'm very interested in technology. I have a Fitbit and the latest everything. But what actually does move the needle are not a new supplement, a new peptide, a new device, a new medication. What moves the needle is the research that shows that when you're outside intentionally, when you do something specific, intentional, and targeted to improve your health, like morning light, for example.
Yes.
Morning light is a single thing that listeners can do that is most important in improving their sleep, in improving the way that they build bone, in repairing muscle, and in cleaning their brain. And this sounds kind of like woo, but it's not, because morning light is the 10 minutes within the first 60 minutes of waking that you need for that light to hit the back of your retina to tell your master clock, which is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, for those of us who are keeping track of medical terms, that sets your circadian rhythm for the whole day. And it sets that in all of your organs. And if you do that, you get that night in 12 to 14 hours, a little release of melatonin, which people take in huge doses, but you only need a tiny dose if you're on an airplane or somewhere that's jet lag. And you make your own if you get this 10 minutes of morning light so that you're sleepy that night. And more importantly, you get the kind of sleep, non-REM sleep is called stage 3 non-REM sleep, slow wave sleep, deep sleep, in which your brain cleans itself, which is called the glymphatic system, which was discovered in 2013, and a Nobel Prize was given for it in 2017. And it's this part of the sleep cycle that only happens in the first maybe 2 or 3 hours, the first 3 or 4 cycles of sleep. And that's when the brain actually shrinks 40%, washes the spinal fluid over it, and takes out, talking about aging, beta amyloid and tau, which are the proteins that are associated with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So, and by the way, deep sleep is when bone rebuilds itself. When you're osteoporotic, you lose bone during the day, but at night, you actually build it back during deep sleep and repair muscle that's been damaged through the day. So if you want to do one thing for yourself, step outside in the morning, 10 minutes without sunglasses, not through a window, in a doorway or through a screen, and absorb, just do something that allows you to not do tasks, but maybe cycle through your senses, listen for sounds for a minute. Listen, spot motion in a leaf or the wind for a minute. Think about your garden, but not what there is to do in the garden, but try to appreciate the color of a leaf or flower. And pretty soon that 10 minutes will go by and you will have been outside without having to do anything except take care of yourself, which then allows you to be stronger and more capable and more giving during the day.
What are your thoughts in the winter time? So I just am kind of coming to an end of using this with the light changing, the daylight changing. I was using an artificial light and I just had it on my kitchen table. So first thing in the morning, I set that down, and I'm not one to be like, I noticed an immediate difference. I feel like I don't have like with supplements or whatever.
Yeah.
This is one thing. I was like telling everyone I know. You become a believer, but I also want to know your opinion. Does that supplement in the winter months
science.
or
okay? Science. Yeah, you got it. That's right.
Yeah.
I have the same thing because I have a 10,000 lux light here.
Yes.
Next to my desk from which I'm speaking with you, and that 10,000 lux light is within 12 inches of my face for 20 minutes in the morning. If I get up when it's dark, which these days I'm doing a lot.
Yes.
And that gives me the back of my retina is that same boost or a similar boost. It's not the same, a similar boost to what I would get outside if the sun was up when I got up.
Yeah.
I then get a double anchor, which you should as well. I then go outside, and when the sun is up, to get some of the wavelengths of the sun that I've missed by having this single 10,000 lux light that's only hitting the bright blue waves that it can manufacture. The sun gives you more, and it tells your cortisol to bump. And you want that in the morning.
Yes.
You want a big cortisol bump in the morning.
Yes.
Because it helps you be alert. And, light first, coffee second. Helps your coffee work better to get this first initial bump.
So I think you answered this, but I want to confirm. I used to think that driving my kids to school when the sun's coming up over the mountains, I was like, this feels like morning light to me because I'm looking through the window, the car windshield. But you said that's not as effective as just being outside, or it's better than nothing, or does it do anything at all?
No, not really.
Wow.
It's nice because the sun's beautiful. You have a little appreciation of awe. And awe is a neurological phenomenon that includes distance and vastness. Mm-hmm. So if you're pausing at a traffic light and you're trying to look at the horizon or the sky and not worried about, what's going on in the back seat or what you have to do next, then yes. But no, that doesn't reset your circadian rhythm. And neither does looking through sunglasses. And neither does looking through reading glasses or any other kind of glasses. Contacts, interestingly, are okay because they don't block the wavelengths that you need. And so I can't emphasize, this is a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely restorative. Just like you have this big bump from the 10,000 lux light.
Yep.
If you are able to double anchor that by going outside when the sun's up, you will get actually even more of the physiologic improvements and normal, ancient, necessary, essential circadian physiology that we have been missing because we are 93% indoors.
Right.
And that's why immune deficiencies, insulin resistance, some myopia, and more. And so I think of it actually kind of not really as a side effect, although that's really an interesting phrasing, Katy. I think of it more as a missed root cause.
Yes, 100%.
And insulin resistance is a lot of other things. It's having too much visceral fat. It's being sedentary. It's having missed hormones. But I think being inside is, a risk factor. And we see this with night at light, by the way. If you fall asleep at night with the lamp or TV on, as 40% of Americans do, and you wake up between 12:30 in the morning and 6 in the morning, and you get that bright blue light that comes from an LED monitor or from other screens, what does your brain think? Your brain thinks, oh, let's get up. We're alert, we're on. And really what you want to do is go back to sleep. But you have a 50% increase of heart attack and stroke and 30% increase risk of AFib and heart failure just from getting the most bright light. The people who have this study from the UK for over 7 years and 90,000 people. It's a real phenomenon. Light can be really your friend or it can hurt you. So we want to use it to our advantage. And morning light is a perfect way to do that.
You mentioned myopia a few times, and I'd like to ask more about that for my listeners who aren't familiar with it. And, the research you share in the book of how being inside, can create that or cause that. And also, I also wanted to share one thing I love about our eye doctor with the kids. Their vision kind of changes as they grow, which is completely normal. But so every time we go in for their annual appointment, she's always like, they're doing really well. It sometimes shifts a little bit, their vision, but she goes, they're getting outside, right? They're getting outside, right? They're getting outside. And, she's like, that's the best thing you can do for your kids' eyes. And I'm like, I will stay with you just because you said that. Like instead of just being like, here's a prescription or, not that sometimes those aren't absolutely needed, but anyway, talk about that.
No, I love that, Katie. I think that's exactly right. So there's a lot to say about this. Myopia, of course, is nearsightedness, and it affects, it's epidemic in Asia. Singapore, 90% of kids have myopia. In California, it's 40% where I live. And that's a preventable, modifiable disease. So nearsightedness is not so bad as you say. You get glasses, you use eye drops, not a big deal. But 5% of myopia that's ordinary turns into high myopia, and you can't predict which 5%. And high myopia gives you retinal problems, it gives you cataracts, it gives you near blindness. And that happens by the time you're age 40 and often earlier. So to protect your eyes in Asia, actually in Singapore, there is a public health campaign with posters everywhere saying, take your kids outside 2 hours a day to play, and with a big smartphone through it and an international negative sign. Because 2 hours a day for kids in free play, not with a device, and that's the problem, that a device, when you're looking like this, elongates your eye, actually physically elongates the eye, and that's why myopia occurs.
Oh my.
From near work, it's called. That near work, it causes the myopia. So in this public health campaign, or exacerbates it if it's already there. This public health campaign is about stopping that epidemic, and it actually works. It stalls myopia in some cases, it prevents its progression, and in some cases, there's mild reversal. It's not to the level of a healed bone kind of reversal, but it's at least stalled. So 2 hours a day of free play, I think, ought to be a minimum for kids, because it not only because it helps to stall myopia if it's there, but also because it allows them to connect with the natural world in a way that an iPad just can't do.
Yeah. And I think we all think of our own childhoods here. It's like we were gone till the streetlights came on type thing. And we were doing all of these things. It was just,
when I was young, and if you were bad as a kid, you were sent outside to play. You couldn't be indoors. So that's backwards, right?
Right.
That's backwards.
It's a punishment to be outside in nature.
Yeah. That screens should be earned.
Yeah.
That should be the reward. And that's a fixable problem too. Mm-hmm. Parents have control of that. And the best way to do that is by modeling, which is time out of your day. But it's an investment, not just in yourself and the time you need to not be burned out because you're inside too much, like too much sugar burns out your metabolism, too many pixels burn out your brain. It's simply overloaded, maxed out with the kind of artificial light you're getting, the 11 hours of screen time you're getting, and the responsibilities that you have. You can fix that. And when you go outside with your kid, you're modeling that this is fun to do. We talked before we started about arranging sticks and making art out of what's on the ground. Mm-hmm. That's marvelously creative. That's inventive. And not only that, you're getting microbial benefits.
Yes.
Because not just of the microbes that are in the soil, some of which make serotonin. Mycobacteria vacci makes serotonin in animal models. And it's thought that when we inhale it, we improve our own microbiome, including that on our skin, as well as in our GI tract and our respiratory system. And serotonin makes you happy.
I think maybe you've been on Ginny Urich's 1,000 Hours Outside podcast, or I feel like she's referenced some of your work, but obviously she's a big proponent. It's like she has an app, 1,000 hours outside is kind of the goal, and you can track your outdoor time each day. And
I love
I've
that.
done that for quite a few years, and I always feel like it's nice to have something to work toward and kind of hold you accountable. And I'll never forget, Dr. John, the first year we did that, we got to 998. I missed it by 2 hours, and I was like, "Darn it!"
It's not about achieving.
That
the goal.
wasn't the point. Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah, no, it's about aiming for it, and that's actually true in life generally.
Yeah,
that the process means a lot more than the outcome, almost always. And this is especially true with children, because it's as you are with them through their development, and as you guide them, you hope that it's going to turn out really well, but you don't know. So what you have is that moment. What you have is the time together right now, and optimizing that so that they are healthy and they're not part of the increase in antidepressant prescriptions of 69% over the last 6 years in teenage kids. And if they are, then looking at specific ways to improve their mental health that have to do with reconnecting them with nature, as well as with a dozen other ways that are innovative to improve that, is an essential kind of responsibility and investment that you can make.
Yeah. I love how you're using the word investment too. I feel like, a lot of us parents will listen to a show like this or an episode and be like, oh, something else I need to do, something else to add to my to-do list.
Not at all. Yeah.
But it really is an investment, especially, longevity. I mean, I could live longer from getting morning light, just that one thing, and not only feel better and sleep better and get really short-term, immediate benefits too, but the long game here.
And there are immediate benefits and actually hundreds of different kinds of ways to do this. Morning light is simply one. I want to say that we already spend 12 hours a day outside. That 7% outside translates to about 12 hours. And the minimum effective dose to improve longevity and to begin to work against some of these medical problems that I think have been at least exacerbated, if not caused, by being inside, is only 17 minutes a day. You're turning those minutes into medicine, and you're repurposing them from what you're already spending. It isn't new time spent. It's taking some time that you're already spending that's incidental. Walking down the sidewalk, going from one parking lot to the next, picking up the delivery from the front door. And it's not that hard. It's spending a little extra time for yourself when you're picking up that delivery and going to your garden and looking at a flower. It's if you have the opportunity, if you're working outside the home, you're having a walking meeting instead of having a meeting in the office. You're having your lunch on a park bench instead of at your desk. It's improving yourself by taking into account the kind of time that you're spending incidentally outside, not as a health device, and making it a health device, making it work for you. You're, again, repurposing that time, and not even all of it, only a minimum of 17 minutes a day. It can go up to 42 minutes a day to get the optimum benefit, but at 17 minutes a day is where we see improvements, not just in mood and in focus, but also in blood pressure and in the longevity curve, and certainly in well-being.
I love how you broke that down. That seems a lot more doable. 17 minutes a day? Okay.
You have 17 minutes a day.
I have 17 minutes a day. One of my favorite, I guess it's an old adage, I think it's a Finnish saying, is there's no bad weather, only bad clothing. Have you heard of that one?
Of course.
I remind myself of that frequently throughout the winter when I don't want to take my walks and get outside, and equally in the summer when it's 100% humidity at 95 degrees. What are some other ways that we can maybe bypass it's not nice out, or it's too cold or too hot? Some other strategies we can use to get outside more, even if the conditions aren't ideal.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we can start with those of us who live in inner cities, who don't have a beach nearby or a lake nearby or a forest preserve nearby. There's a misconception that nature is remote, that it's the Rocky Mountains, the Pacific Ocean, something huge, and it's not close. It is close. It can be the houseplant on your kitchen table, the wind that ruffles your curtains, the dog by your feet are all connections to nature. So So even when the weather is bad, you have those connections at your fingertips often to appreciate and kind of reshift your focus away from the adrenergic nervous system, away from releasing adrenaline and cortisol and noradrenaline, more towards the parasympathetic nervous system and using your vagus nerve to calm yourself and to refocus. Second, if we live in an urban environment in dense and with dense apartments in cities and the horizon isn't visible to you, you can still go to a window and look at the furthest point that you can, which you should for a minute every hour, especially if you're seated at a desk or a cubicle. And even if you're running around the house or office and you're doing something that is active, your eyes still need a reset. Your eyes need distance, like your lungs need air. And you have to look at a distance for a minute to relax these ciliary muscles, reduce the headache that you might have and the tension that's building because of the stuff you have to do, and because of the artificial light, and because of the toxins inside and indoor air is worse than outdoor air, by the way. So in doing that, you can do that from a doorway, from a window, even if you're indoors, and it will help to bring you back. Thirdly, when the weather is bad, blizzards in the Northeast this year, and it gets very hot in the summer. I lived in Chicago many years. I know what bad weather is. So what can you do? What you can do is time it and use the most important times. We've talked about getting out early and morning light, and that's when the sun's up. And you can do that from a doorway. You can do it from a window. And if you don't do it every day, the world's not going to collapse. But you'll need to reset it the next day. What you can do in the evening is catch the dusk and sunset. And this isn't just romantic. It's also because the red and amber wavelengths of the sun in the evening are the only light wavelengths that don't suppress melatonin.
Wow.
They're the only light wavelengths that tell your brain, hey, it's okay to release melatonin tonight. You can sleep. And then the rest of your body responds. Your body temperature cools down, your brain powers down, which is very different than getting screens, within 30 minutes of going to bed, which is a signal to your brain to not release melatonin. It's suppressed by 80%, which lasts for an hour and a half. So these two anchors, plus even 10 minutes during the day, even 10 minutes of bright light during the day, allow you to recoup when the weather's bad. And if you have a super busy day, like most of us do, it's a nice anchor. Morning light, 10 minutes at morning light without responsibility. 10 minutes during the day, also without responsibility. Getting some exposure outside, maybe using your senses. And evening, powering down devices, off-ramp for screens, and catching the sunset, even a few rays if you can.
My family and I went to Italy in 2019. And one thing I picked up there, we continue to do to this day, is a walk after dinner. So I know that's very culturally normal in Italy. You might know this. We were talking about your last name and your heritage before I hit record. And it's so in Italian, passeggiata. I don't know how to say it exactly properly.
Yep.
But for years, so we typically do this after dinner when it's roughly dusk. Depends on, of course, sports and activities and our schedules for that day. But like 75% of the time we get it done, and it's like something our whole family looks forward to as well. And I will say, from a chore perspective, I don't want to come back. So we eat dinner, and then we tidy up, we reset the kitchen, do the dishes. And because our family and my kids, who are now 9 and 11, so look forward to the passeggiata after dinner, they're more eager to help get the chores and work as a family unit to knock that out, because I don't want to come back in at 8:00 and be like, it's a disaster in here. So just like a little random fun little benefit. And it's just been so incredible for our family.
It's a powerful tool, and you're right, it's a cultural ritual in parts of Italy and in other places in the world.
Yes.
And it's in part, I think, to enjoy this sunset. It's just, these ancient traditions actually have some science behind them. And the cultural benefits are one thing. What you're pointing out also is that nature is social. Yeah. When you're outside, you meet other people. And actually, that's a good thing. It's a good thing for longevity. It's a good thing for reducing loneliness. It's a good thing for breaking out of isolation. It's a good thing to drop that loneliness mortality risk of 15 cigarettes a day. That's what loneliness costs us. And when you meet other people, my favorite way to do this is with green exercise, which is probably the easiest way for a lot of people to get their outdoor time that helps their brain to work better, it helps their body to work better. And you can do that with something social and like pickleball, which is often played outside and always involves other people and is a game in which you have to be nice to everybody. You introduce yourself.
Do you though? No, I'm kidding. It says the highly competitive one over here.
I'm right with you, Katy. Yeah. Why don't you come to Santa Barbara? We'll play.
Sounds good.
But that social part, even especially when you're highly competitive, because when you're competitive, you're on the court, you're there to play well, maybe to win, is at the end of the game, you're all friends again, right? You kick paddles, you think about the next game, you get a drink, and you go on. Social is part of being outside, and it is that connection, and I read a whole chapter about this in the book and ways to do this, is essential to understanding our place in the world, to understanding how to improve our own physiology, how to improve our burnout, which many of us are afflicted by. And this is not actually a personal problem. It's not a character flaw. It's a biological environmental mismatch. We are simply been confined too much for our nervous systems, for our metabolism, for our immune systems to function optimally. But when we have this minimum effective dose of 17 minutes a day of and it can be many different activities of using light, using soil, using air as kind of nutrients, we begin to restore some of the physiology that's been stolen from us, frankly, and that is being stolen from our children in a way that makes life more normal again. I think that's the take home.
Recently, maybe it was in the last 6 months, we had some girlfriends and I all flew to Nashville, Tennessee. There's maybe 6 of us. And we were just sitting around a pool. We went for the weekend. And I noticed something really quickly that all of us felt like we were burnt out. We're like, oh, I'm so glad to be here. I needed this. I'm so burnt out. And I'm listening to all these women go after woman, I'm burnt out, I'm burnt out, I'm burnt out. And we're all very much into living with less, simplicity. We're all very much into health and wellness. And I remember just being like so confused and kind of defeated by, I'm like, how all of us who are trying so hard to do all the right things still feeling this way. And as you're speaking, I'm going, I really think it's the outdoor time, that big piece to the puzzle that we're missing.
I agree.
Really?
With you. Yeah. And of course, your experience around the pool is echoed with millions of other women nationwide and frankly, worldwide. This is not just an American phenomenon. However, I think this feeling is ubiquitous, and it also has a simpler, more core answer, which is that when you spend time deliberately in specific and targeted and intentional ways in green or blue spaces, near greenery or near or in water, what you're doing is amplifying all the other good things that you're doing for your health. And in 30 years of medical practice, what I think has been the most underappreciated factor in health for improvement is where people spend their time. And we don't really ask about this in a medical history or a review of systems, but it's a missing core component to the idea that you're not burned out, you're just inside too much. And if you spend your time in specific, targeted, intentional ways in a green or a blue space, even the minimum time that I've suggested is needed for improvement in telomeres, for improvement in well-being, improvement in blood sugar and blood pressure, improvement in risk for not just cardiovascular disease, but also for brain diseases and eye diseases, as we've discussed. You begin to reverse that. You begin to take control of what seems out of control when almost nothing seems in control these days.
Yeah.
how you spend your time and where you spend your time is something you have control of and something you can model for and even do with your children.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a message we all need to hear and be reminded of. I know I will personally go back. I re-listen to the episodes. I do with guests because I really need to soak this in, and I think we all needed to hear this. John, Dr. John, I know you have so many more strategies. Like you said, we only kind of scratched the surface for just getting outside more and frameworks inside your book. Can you share with my listeners? I'll make sure to link it in the show notes as well. Where to get your book, where they can follow your work.
You can follow my work on indoorepidemic.com, and the book Indoor Epidemic is available March 17th, wherever books are sold.
Cannot wait. I think this is such a great, important root cause discussion. I'm all about root causes here on Maximize Minimalist. Okay, Dr. John, before we leave, I always ask my guests 2 questions at the very end. The first one is, if you could magically declutter one thing from your life forever, no effort required, what would it be?
I love these sparkling drinks, and almost inevitably, there are those little white caps of the 16-ounce drinks left around the house everywhere. Somehow we managed to recycle the bottles, but never the caps. And so I'd like all this to go away.
You need the European version that don't come off, and then you'd be fine.
That's it. Why didn't I do that?
I love it. You just need to, ship them in. And what's one thing in your home you would never let go of?
My sweetheart.
Aw.
Yeah.
And how long have you been together?
And just 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah, but that's forever.
I love that. Well, congratulations. Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Dr. John, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show today. Thanks for sharing all your wisdom with us.
It's a pleasure, Katie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.